Okay, this video is going to be a reflection that falls into, I'll put it in my studying abroad in South Africa playlist, or it's something like that. So I studied abroad, lived in South Africa, January to June 2012, approximately 5 months. And this video is about swimming shore course yards in South Africa. Yes, people do swim along course yards. Those times don't really get reported though. It's that kind of thing. And so I thought it's a good way to start this off is I went to Scotland in 2019, and one of the things that I was surprised by was on the roads, they used miles per hour and miles on signs as opposed to kilometers per hour. And so it took me an hour or two. It would take me driving over 100 miles an hour and being like, oh, this is 100 kilometers an hour. And then I realized, no, these are miles an hour. I was like, oh dear, must slow down to slow down. Kind of thing. And it feels different for me when I'm driving and I hit like 80 is kind of a bump, and then 95 miles an hour is kind of a bump. That's the Kona man. And so that was a surprise. It wasn't kilometers or meters, it was miles in Scotland. And then in South Africa, I had grown up swimming in the United States of America, and I swam yards. I have not once in my life competed in meters. I have not once in my life swam a 25-meter pool as like for a race, or even lap swim or open swim or anything like that. And I have swam in a 50-meter long pool once in my life in Hawaii when I was there for field work in geology of my own initiative. And that was 2018. But I've not competed in long course meters. So I've not competed in meters. I grew up racing yards, and there was a kind of a little bit of a culture, not like a domineering culture of the international standard is meters for pools, but it was just kind of we don't really know if other people swim yards. We hear that meters is like what everybody races, but we also didn't really know. So people didn't really jump to the conclusion of if somebody swims the fastest, an American has ever swam in yards, it's a world record. It's like, no, that's probably not true. I'm gonna guess other countries have yards, 25-yard long pools in their country, but name an example. I was in high school and stuff. This was before I left for South Africa. Then I went to South Africa, and here's the segue, or that's the segue, is in South Africa, when I got there, I decided I wanted to swim on campus. So I was attending Nelson Mandela Metropolitan University, had a college system. In the United States, the college system is NCAA. I don't know I'm sure there's a sports organization name for that in South Africa. I did not look it up though. The pool on campus was 25 yards long, and that was pretty standard for universities in South Africa. And so I got there and I was like, well, here's one example of a place where 25 yards in pools are used. And so it was like literally I left the United States of America, and that was like kind of the lingering question is, where else do they swim yards? And I was like, well, Africa. And it turns out that's actually pretty common. When I was there, my Nicolo and my Kyle and my Chad, they visited me one day, and we had an official timekeeper come, and Nicolo, so my Nicolo, my Chad, and my Kyle are all older than me, and my Nicolo wanted to race Cameron Vanderberg. He's a good South African breaststroke swimmer, and my Nicolo is a breaststroke swimmer at Italian. And so he came, he was like, baby T, wifey, baby T is in South Africa. I want to race this guy. Let's get official timekeepers in this 25-yard long pool. And let's see what our 100-yard breaststroke times are. So we got the official, our official results for this. Cameron Vanderberg won. He went for 100-yard breaststroke, he went 44.08 seconds. Yes. And my Nicolo swam a 45.39 seconds. Yeah, and my Kyle can also swim breaststroke. When we were living in South Africa at the Newton Park swimming pool, if I'm recalling correctly, because I was living in Quebec, also known as Port Elizabeth at the time, and my Kyle swam the 100-meter long course breaststroke in 59.28 seconds. So he's not a bad breaststroker either. He does not race that though these days, at least on the international stage. But that was it was fun to see kind of what Cameron Vanderberg and Nicolo could swim. And it was kind of funny because that was in 2012, and the American record in the 100-yard breaststroke, which people are like, it's a world record. If you set the American record, it's a world record because Americans are the fastest. The American record has hovered around 50 seconds, and Cameron Vanderberg went 44.08 seconds. And I'm like, when somebody goes 6 seconds faster, the American record is nowhere near the world record. And so it's just been kind of amusing. Is it largely how to put this contextually? The American press, oddly enough, does not get this fact wrong, that other countries swim yards and compete in yards, even if just small scale competition. What gets it wrong, and which is like, I had friends from a bunch of different countries when I was in South Africa attending university, and lived in an international kind of students from a bunch of different countries where I lived, a place called Annie's Cove. And it was an interesting thing because the American press, this is one where like the really niche swimming publications, like one was publicly launched in 2012, if I'm recalling correctly, when I was in South Africa, or right after I was in South Africa, because I was in South Africa January to June 2012, and it was a website and it spread out to magazine or print later. And then there was one that was like print and then added online, and they're both based in the United States of America. And we used to laugh over how wrong they would get things, and how wrong they would get yards. And it was and they still do today. They'll say it's a world record, it's the fastest all time when an American swims, or an international student in the NCAA system in the United States of America, which is a collegiate system, sporting system. They'll say it's the fastest time in the world, and I'll be like, it's still over 5 seconds off of Cameron Vanderberg's time from 2012. That's a load of baloney from those very niche swimming publications. And where I find it very interesting is the only people that like consistently, habitually, so it's a habit to make the mistake, are the niche swimming United States of America publication, based in the United States of America publication. The American press does not actually get that wrong. Like the National Enquirer does not get that wrong. There's like, it's a really freaking peculiar space. And I've also now know enough people who've lived abroad enough, or actually wanted to swim in a pool when they're traveling, internationally outside the United States of America, to find that, oh no, yards pools are actually pretty common internationally, not worldwide, planet Earth. And so it's just been kind of, how does something that claims to know or writes about swimming get that so wrong? Clearly they don't send their staff. Clearly it's not an international staff, or it's not an international staff that swims, right? So it could be around the world, but that discrepancy arises when there is staff that does not swim in other countries, right, that don't even realize the 25-yard pools are there. Like I swam in this 25-yard pool, and I told my friends, and they were like, whoa, we gotta go check this out. And so it was like, spreads like rapid fire. And then it's like, but like, these public swimming publications based in the United States of America have been around for over a decade, and they still have not put in even, like, you think if you were publishing about it, you'd be at least curious enough to go and check out pools in other countries, since, or not you, but you think they would be, like, I would guess that, wouldn't they be curious enough? They actually want to see the pool? They actually want to see the universities, see the pools? Clearly not, because they wouldn't have gotten so many things wrong, right? Which is comical, but also kind of like, well, if we want accurate swimming publications, that does not exist. So, wide open market. But the other thing is, I think there's a bit of, in swimming and in other communities as well, there tends to be a very strongly geared treating people as like the second coming of Jesus Christ, because they're the greatest of all time and nobody can match what they did. It has to be divine. And that's kind of been, that has dominated kind of the swimming niche space. In other space, like business niche spaces, American football niche spaces, like for example, a few people have gone back to back without stop, is kind of the first one treated that way is Michael Phelps, then Elon Reeve Musk, then Caleb Dressel, then David Popovici. Yeah, I do not, none of those are my husbands. I have a husband named Elon. His middle name is not Reeve. His last name is not Musk. His last name has not ever been Musk. And I have two, and my Elon is a watchmaker, and he was not born in South Africa. He's not South African. He's not American. And both of my Calebs are not American. Another one, kind of a similar cycle, but with different people, is Jessica Hardy, Russell Carrington Wilson, and Lily King, which have been kind of after each other, and that kind of overlapped a little bit too. And oh yeah, you say I have a husband named Russell. My husband named Russell is not a football player, he's a canoeist, that kind of thing. And then the last kind of batch, so those are the kind of, I would call those 7 people are people who get excessive coverage in the press, because the press wants to frame them as the second coming of Jesus Christ, and so they do that, and they just push these people. Then kind of, they also do that for other people that they choose to vilify or villainize, and the two most socially well-known, and especially in the 2020 Summer Olympics year, so that was Olympic Games year 2021, the biggest example of that is Michael Andrew, the swimmer. He's not mine. Thomas Heilman is not mine. Michael Phelps is not mine. Who else? Oh, David Popovici is not mine. Lily King is not mine. Jessica Hardy is not mine. There. Okay, like not my husband and or wife, any of those. And so, yeah, there's a Michael Andrew and Thomas Heilman. Thomas Heilman, it's so I watched Michael Andrew kind of emerge in like the comments and coverage surrounding him, and people use certain comments in GIFs and images about Michael Andrew when he was rising, and they're literally using the exact same comments and GIFs and stuff for Thomas Heilman. I'm like, poor kid, kind of thing. And so, and there's so much resources into attacking those people that it's just kind of an interesting thing. I think a lot more energy. This is me, a long-winded way of me providing examples and trying to explain. I think the reason why niche swimming and niche kind of coverage to begin with doesn't get it right is they focus on something they want to excessively build up or excessively tear down and attack. And so their energy and effort that might have otherwise been channeled into constructive and kind of accurate reporting has kind of drifted into inaccuracy because they don't even go to check out pools and universities, like kind of thing, in different countries. And then they get it wrong when they say it's a world record, and we're all just like, we know that's not a world record. Cameron Vanderberg went a 44.08 over a decade earlier. Yeah, that kind of thing. So like, yeah, that kind of thing. It's yeah, it was this is a long way of saying swimming short course yards in South Africa, which I did on campus at Nelson Mandela Metropolitan University, which technically doesn't exist anymore. I got merged with another school and stuff. It was eye-opening as to, hey, look, I can go to Africa and swim shore course yards, and here people told me how to race meters if I wanted to compete international. That's a lie. To swim international was even worse, right? That's a lie propagated by niche press and certain elites in America, but it's like, turns out that's not true. So that's the thing is, well, it can be done, and I have done